Today on the podcast, we're discussing part 3 of our partnership journey discussion around the key clauses that you should be looking for in your partnership agreement. Today, we're talking about retirement and exit. So what happens when one partner wants out and the other either can't afford to buy them out or simply doesn't want to? Exit clauses are important, and they're not just about planning to leave or even getting old. They're about planning not to destroy the business when someone else leaves. Without a clear exit mechanism, partners stay stuck, and stuck partners make poor business decisions. Therefore, whilst you're thinking about going into your partnership agreement and get excited about what lies ahead, you also need to be thinking about how you get out of your partnership agreement, or if you don't have that in your sights at all, what you will do if one of your other partners decides it's time for them to get out of the partnership. Now, this isn't necessarily a negative thing. It can be quite positive simply due to retirement or passage of time, handover, change of circumstances, etc. However, this exit piece is very important. There are a number of things you need to consider. Firstly, the notice period. So how much notice does a partner need to give if they want to retire or leave the partnership? So when I say retirement, as I say, it's not about getting old, it's simply that leaving piece. So how much notice is required? What happens if a partner wants to leave early? So let's just say you've gone to the time and expense and the effort of forming a new partnership, and in 2 or 3 years' time, which is typically quite early into a partnership relationship, someone wants to leave. That might be because it's not what they thought it would be, or maybe they've had a change of life circumstances. You can't stop those things from happening. A lot of people come to me and say, can we please stop that or put a penalty in? You can't stop it, but you certainly can deter it. And I've indicated there or alluded to one way you can do that, which we'll discuss shortly. Thirdly, what will be the price for an exiting partner's interest? So if someone is leaving, what's the price on their interest? How is that going to be purchased by either one of the existing partners or someone new? Is it the market value of the interest? Is it an agreed price? Is it, for example, a valuation at a certain point in time plus a percentage? Or is it a discounted price perhaps? So you need to think about that. Number 4, what if a partner leaves? Who pays the cost? So do each party, being the exiting partner and the continuing partner or the purchasing partner, pay their own cost? Is it a partnership cost? You need to think about that. And it may change depending on the circumstances. And finally, what happens if someone wants out, but the continuing partners can't actually afford to pay them out? So these are key questions. There's 5 of them there, or 5 concepts, more questions obviously arising from those concepts, and they each require thought. Every partner, depending on their circumstances and views of business, is going to have a different opinion. So therefore, you need to really be asking these questions now, getting to an agreed position, and then documenting that in your partnership agreement. So once you've had those key discussions, you then need to action them, I guess, by putting them into your agreement. So going back through that list, firstly, the notice period of retirement. So this length of time should really be informed by how long it takes for a transaction to be completed in your state and how long the partnership would need to put in place a plan if a partner decides to exit. So if, for example, transactions in your state are taking on average 6 months, then you wouldn't say that the notice period of exit is 2 months, because that's simply not enough time to plan. You need to obviously allow time for notice to be given, and then the continuing partners to decide what they're doing, and then for the transaction to actually happen. So I would say that 3 months is far too short and 6 months may be tight. So across most states and territories of Australia, I would say that you should consider between 6 and 9 months as the notice period for retirement. Secondly, that early exit piece. So how can you deter an exit simply due to a change of mind? So it's not what they expected. Perhaps you can deter it by making a higher contribution to cost. So if someone decides to leave in the first, let's just say 5 years of the partnership, they may need to pay the cost associated with their exit for everyone. So that's themselves and the other party. Or perhaps it's a lower price for the first few years. So let's just say they leave in the first 5 years. It might be their purchase price less 5%. Or if you're going to get significant growth, maybe it's their purchase price without any growth on it. So basically they get out for what they paid and don't get the advantage of any growth in the store. So there's different things that you can do here, and you can also vary it depending on what happens. So if it's simply a change of mind, you might want to have that deterrence mechanism in place, so they're really thinking about whether this is what they want before they actually get into it. But if, for example, someone suffers a tragedy or an illness or an injury or some other change of life circumstances, then maybe you don't have that deterrent mechanism in place. Number 3 was how the exit price. So you really should be determining the formula for that now so that there's no surprises down the track. You don't have to agree on the price because, of course, we don't know what that is, but you should agree on the mechanism or the formula as to how you'll actually get to it. Perhaps it's market value, and if it is, that's fine, but you need to decide who will determine the market value and actually nominate a valuer. Be clear on the process, because in the absence of a process, you risk leaving it up to the courts, and that won't end well for anyone. It could also be a valuation at a point in time plus a percentage. It could also be, the accountant will do the figures. There's lots of options available here, but you do need to agree on that mechanism. Number 4 is pretty straightforward, which is decide who pays the cost if a partner exits. Again, this may be circumstantial, but it's something you need to discuss and decide early on. And finally, what if someone wants out and the others can't or don't want to buy them out? Well, you need to have a plan B in place, which comes into play. So maybe there's tag along and drag along provisions in your partnership agreement, which, without going into too much detail now, essentially forces either the buyer to buy everyone's interest or forces the partners who don't want to sell to actually sell to effect a sale. So tag along and drag along clauses. They provide a way out in the case of a stalemate, which sometimes is needed to avoid disruption to the business, and which can obviously result in loss of productivity and profit. So that's retirement and exit. There's a lot to think about, and no one lasts forever. So it is important to think about this and think about it both in terms of your career journey as well as life in general. So any questions, please sing out. Otherwise, I'll talk to you again next week.